Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we're diving straight into the chilling, fully documented true story of the Mary Celeste. We're going to completely deconstruct the myths surrounding history's absolute greatest maritime mystery. Think of this as a dark history documentary where we're dusting off a 150-year-old cold case and piecing together the actual evidence. We're not hunting for sea monsters today, you guys. We're looking for the real truth behind 10 human beings who just ceased to exist.
I want you to close your eyes for just a second. Listen to the creaking wood, feel the cold ocean wind, picture an old 19th century brigantine ship moving completely silently through the gray, foggy waters of the Atlantic. And there is absolutely no one at the wheel. The ship is eerily quiet, yet it's sailing completely on its own. It's this intensely cinematic, totally foreboding scene. And the question that should be burning in your mind right now is, where exactly did 10 souls go?
To really wrap our heads around this tragedy, we first need to strip away all the spooky paranormal tales and look at the raw, undeniable facts of this empty vessel. The sails were catching the wind perfectly. They were set as if a crew had just adjusted them moments before. This wasn't some wrecked, devastated hull just floating aimlessly out there. It was a fully functioning ship, actively making headway across the ocean.
Now, what makes this truly unsettling are the human stakes involved. These weren't just random, disjointed sailors thrown together for a gig. This was a highly trusted crew. You've got Captain Benjamin Briggs, he's 37, incredibly experienced and deeply respected. And he was traveling with his wife Sarah and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia. The rest of the crew included brothers and trusted first mates. This was a really tight-knit group, which makes their sudden disappearance all the more terrifying. I mean, they wouldn't have just abandoned each other without a genuinely horrifying reason.
So weeks after they departed New York Harbor, another ship enters our story. On December 4th, 1872, Captain David Morehouse of a ship called the Di Grazia spots the Mary Celeste yawing erratically in the mist. This is about 400 miles east of the Azores. Now get this, Morehouse actually knew Captain Briggs. They'd even had dinner together right before leaving New York. So after signaling repeatedly and getting just absolute dead silence in return, a puzzled and honestly pretty alarmed Morehouse sends a boarding party over to figure out what's going on.
Now, if you've heard of the Mary Celeste before, you've probably heard the legends, right? The warm, half-eaten breakfasts, the tea still steaming in the cups, like they were abducted mid-bite by aliens. But the boarding party, which was led by First Mate Oliver DeVoe, found no steaming tea. Instead, they walked into an eerily abandoned, very damp space. The galley was totally normal. There were absolutely no meals mid-consumption. It was an orderly state that pointed to a deliberate departure, not some sudden violent vanishing act.
Okay, let's look at the actual physical clues they recorded for the Admiralty Court. There was about 3.5 feet of water in the hold, which, yeah, is concerning, but definitely not enough to sink a ship like this. The bilge pump was taken apart. But here is the absolutely crucial point. The chronometer, the sextant, and the lifeboat were gone. Yet, the captain's sword was still tucked right under his bunk. Think about that. You take a sextant when you're planning to navigate a lifeboat. You leave your sword behind when you aren't expecting a fight. This was a planned, albeit completely panicked, evacuation.
The only surviving navigational record was the ship's log slate. The very last entry was dated November 25, 1872, placing them just off Santa Maria Island in the Azores. Remember, the Di Grazia found them on December 4th. This reveals a chilling, almost unbelievable truth. The Mary Celeste had sailed completely alone, navigating roughly 400 miles over 9 whole days without a single human hand at the wheel. Crazy, right?
All right, Section 1, the Red Herrings and the Admiralty Court. So, at the official Gibraltar Admiralty Court investigation, Attorney General Frederick Sully Flood championed these wildly sensational red herrings. He was absolutely convinced of a murderous plot. He accused the crew of mutiny, or actually he even accused the Di Grazia crew of murdering everyone on board just to claim a salvage reward. But the utter lack of blood or motive makes mutiny completely illogical. Flood tried to point to some grooves and reddish stains on the deck, but later scientific analysis proved those stains were literally just rust, and the grooves were normal weathering. There was zero sign of a struggle. Other investigators looked to nature. The waters around the Azores are highly tectonically active, so could a violent submarine earthquake or a freak waterspout have caused this? While natural disasters like a seaquake also completely fall apart under scrutiny. Just think about it. A wave big enough to simultaneously sweep 10 people off a deck would have inevitably destroyed the ship's rigging or shifted the heavy cargo. But the ship was structurally sound. Everything was fundamentally intact.
Which brings us to Section 2, the cargo and the tragic reality.
Now here's the detail I've strategically withheld from you until now. This is the key that unlocks this entire dark mystery. Down in the claustrophobic belly of the ship, the Mary Celeste was carrying exactly 1,701 barrels of a highly specific, highly dangerous cargo destined for Genoa, Italy. And later on, 9 of those barrels were found to be completely 100% empty.
That cargo was denatured industrial alcohol. This is an incredibly volatile liquid. Remember those 9 empty barrels? Well, if they leaked in an improperly vented hold, the heavy alcohol vapor would sink right to the bottom. Even a tiny shift in pressure or a spark could ignite it. Imagine this, a faint blue-white haze pooling down below, and then a sudden terrifying blast of fire, a roaring concussive blast. It wouldn't necessarily burn the ship down, but it would absolutely terrify an experienced captain into fleeing immediately, thinking a massive ship-destroying explosion was seconds away.
Let's map this out on a timeline and see how it builds into our tragic reality. On November 24th and 25th, the pressure builds. The concussive blast terrifies the crew. Captain Briggs makes a split-second, rational, but ultimately doomed decision. He orders an immediate evacuation into the lifeboat. They grab the navigation tools and they tether themselves to the back of the ship with a tow line, intending to wait at a safe distance until the danger passes. And then, the unthinkable happens. The rope breaks.
The real horror here isn't paranormal at all. It's the agonizing realization of 10 people watching their empty ship just sail away, leaving them stranded to die of exposure. I mean, imagine sitting in that tiny wooden yawl, clutching a 2-year-old child, feeling the freezing November Atlantic wind whipping around you. You are 400 miles from the nearest shipping lanes, and you just have to watch as your perfectly functional ship drifts faster and faster into the fog, taking literally your only hope of survival with it.
It's just a heartbreaking image. Yet, even with the vapor theory making perfect logical sense, there are still these chilling anomalies that historians cannot fully answer today. Like, why was the bilge pump completely disassembled on the deck? Were they working on it right before the blast? Why were the massive hatches left wide open? And despite the sheer vastness of the Atlantic Ocean, it remains incredibly striking that absolutely zero bodies or lifeboat wreckage were ever recovered. The ocean just swallowed them whole.
And finally, Section 3, the myth and the legacy.
So, if the actual truth is a heartbreaking, mundane accident, how on earth did the Mary Celeste become history's most famous ghost story? Well, the answer lies in the media. Specifically, a young, totally unknown writer at the time named Arthur Conan Doyle. 12 years after the event, long before he created Sherlock Holmes, Doyle wrote a fictional short story about the ship. He's the one who actually invented the warm tea, the stopped clocks, and the half-eaten breakfast. His writing was so vivid and convincing that the Victorian public just accepted his sensational fiction as absolute historical fact. He gave them the ghost story they were hungry for.
To end this explainer, I want to leave you with this question to ponder. Why is an alien abduction, a sea monster, or a pirate curse so much easier for us to stomach than the mundane tragedy of a broken rope? Maybe it's because a ghost story is a thrilling mystery, but a broken rope, well, that's just a terrifying reminder of how fragile human life really is. The Mary Celeste sailed herself for 400 miles, almost as if she was looking for the family she left behind. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed dark history, mysteries, and conspiracy documentaries, be sure to like and subscribe for more explainers.